I don't look at it as success. Sure, it's great for the entire team to get recognized as the number one team for Remax in Canada for the last 3 consecutive years based on closed transactions. It's a huge accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't do this alone, and it's not me. It's because I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by so many amazing human beings.
Hey everybody, Ryan Hodge here, and another episode of the Rise Up podcast, which is a new experience that I'm sharing. And today, I am super grateful to welcome Justin Havre from Remax in Calgary. Justin is the number one Remax team in the entire country and one of the number one top teams in the entire world. Justin brings incredible value, humility. I've had the opportunity to hear him speak and have been following along as a fan of his for a number of years now. So Justin, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Ryan, so much. It's an honor to be here today, and thank you for all the kind words. And it's pretty neat to kind of reflect back on the journey in this amazing industry that we're a part of. And, again, just humbled to be a part of what I'm a part of.
Well, I think that, for those that, follow along with me, unless they've been hiding under a rock for the last number of years, I'm sure that they know, who you are. But maybe you can give some insight on, how you came to this place in your life as far as, absolute market and worldly domination, as I call it, in terms of creating what it is that you have with your team of associates.
Well, it's definitely not something that was created by design from an early vision by any shape, way, or form. I started in this business 16 years ago. I got licensed in 2005, started out as an individual agent, like we all do for the most part, except for nowadays where a lot of individual agents would start their careers on a team. I was just so very fortunate to have a friend that was in real estate, and he happened to take me under his wings, mentored me, taught me all the things that I know today and continues to teach me today, because I'm so fortunate to have this gentleman on the team, and he's been now a realtor for 25 years. Actually, as of yesterday, he was recognized with the Calgary Real Estate Board for being, a 25-year member. Wow. So obviously, I learned a lot from him, and one of the things that I started doing very early on in my career, and I can't recall who it was that told me, but they said, always reinvest back into your business, and to the tune of minimum 25% of your commissions. So, I kind of came from an IT background with internet and that kind of stuff. So I knew that internet was something of the future when it came to our industry. And I knew that, the biggest challenge that a real estate agent has is not having enough opportunities. So if I could solve that problem, I know that I could support my career, moving forward. So I started to, invest into websites, started one website, and then started obsessing about search engine optimization, and invested in another website. To kind of put things into context, my second website that I built out was, a custom real estate webmaster's website. And I believe at the time, the cost of that website was like 16,000 US. And this is like back in 2006, 2007, a lot of money. Right. Then I committed to doing search engine optimization, which was at that time at a cost of about 4,000 US a month, which again, a lot of money, especially with a weak dollar.
It's no joke.
Right. And to put things into context, my mortgage payment at that time was $1,000 a month. And I didn't have the money to pay for that for the whole year. So I was just like, okay, well, I better make this work. Right. So I started generating a lot of leads and opportunities. So obviously had a lot of guidance by my mentor on how to convert these opportunities, continued to kind of obsess about search engine optimization, ended up kind of setting up a kind of little referral network within the brokerage where I was at, where I was handing out, these leads to, 4 or 5 agents in the office, collecting referral checks from them. Which, in 2009, I was recognized as the number one agent in a brokerage of 700 agents. And then that brokerage, a little bit of, I was going to say uproar or conversations around, hey, this is not fair. Justin's operating or perceived as a team when I wasn't officially a team. So as of January 1, 2010, that's when Justin Havre Associates was created. And, we've been operating as a team since then, and, had some ups and downs, to say the least, when it comes to growing a team. And I'll say this, when I got into the business, I never had the intentions of starting a team. I just had the intentions of, setting myself up financially, having a steady, flow of revenue, and, provide for a family and start a family and all that stuff. Um, and went through a divorce. As this industry tends to be, pretty hard on relationships as well. And, especially if you're, I'd say probably most men can relate to this. You want to be the provider for the family. You want to go out there and, work your butt off and, again, provide financial security for your family. And, that meant sometimes canceling or bailing on anniversary dinners, with the permission of the ex-wife. But, later on that came up to kind of nip me in the butt, so to say. Lots of lessons around that. Little side note here, my number one advice to anyone that's getting into this business is your number one appointment in your phone should always be your significant other. If you can start your career off with them being your number one appointment, then your clients don't need to know about that. You've just booked, right? But the minute you start kind of canceling special occasions, they don't feel like they are valued as much.
Sure.
So, and it's a hard habit to change when, after the fact, when you want to just go. And, again, you kind of lose track on who you're with, not necessarily who you're with, but the important moments in a relationship, right? So I think it's critical to ensure that you have, a good relationship with your partner. And that means sticking to your commitments to them as well. Business can always wait. Whether you have, a partner in the office that you can kind of have cover you if you have special occasions, that kind of stuff. But, no matter what level of success you achieve in this industry, it's pretty meaningless when you have no one to share it with.
So true. That was certainly part of the downfall of my marriage. And I think that, when you examine it, you're right. It's hard to break those habits. And a lot of mine, it wasn't intentional to be a lousy husband or anything like that. But as I got busier in real estate, just started to drift, and I was trying to be that provider for the kids. And, I'd be the great, hockey dad or, go to all the stuff, but the significant other, that certainly, went by the wayside. And then eventually you're almost too far gone in my perspective of that.
Yeah, I recall, going through a divorce, and I was sitting there in a pretty big house all alone when the brokerage announced that I was the number one agent for the year. I remember sitting on the couch in the living room, and it was a pretty empty house because obviously when you have some domestic restructuring, there's also restructuring of items in the house and all that stuff. So it was pretty empty, but nonetheless, I sat there alone in a house and I cried. And I'm like, wow, this is what success feels like. Pretty freaking shitty. And, obviously I've grown a lot personally since then as well, and had a lot of time to reflect and kind of look at that. And again, I look at, any success that we create in this business, use that as a vehicle to create memorable life experiences for yourself and your loved ones.
We talked a little bit earlier, and I guess that's a real key point, because, and I'd like to dive into it from a team perspective, but, before we started recording, you mentioned, we've all been able to navigate this, pandemic and everything and find success, and just how important it is to use, the word pivot. And then I know that's thrown around a lot through this, challenging time in the world. But you've pivoted, a number of times in your career and personal life, by the sounds of it. how do you identify, or do you actually identify when it is a time to do that?
Well, I think you got to have a pretty good pulse on everything that's going on in the organization, in the marketplace, and also within yourself, right? Kind of going back to my journey here a bit too. I mean, in 2012, December 2012 to January 2013, we grew the team from 6 agents to 28 in a month. So from December to January. In January, we also generated roughly 4,200 organic internet leads from 2 websites in a single month.
Wild.
No real systems, no automations. Each website had its own CRM, so we had no central CRM or anything like that. Honestly, it was a gong show, but we made it work. Had to pivot, right? Adapt. Then in 2017 was another kind of pivotal moment for myself, and the journey of running a team was, January 1st, 2017, 3 of my listing team members resigned while I was sitting having dinner in Hawaii on a holiday, essentially. Right. And but that was kind of the start to a pivotal moment for the entire organization. I had also, again, I'm going to say I made a mistake, but at the same time, it's also one of the greatest blessings for myself personally through my own personal journey is I had a, personal relationship with a team member, which, ended up being one of the greatest teachers for me. I knew it was wrong to mix business and pleasure. It was definitely not good for the culture and the dynamics of the team. So I learned that the hard way. But, all the good that came from that was, I look at that as being one of my greatest teachers. So I'm forever thankful for that. It made me kind of look at the way that I had been running the organization. And at the end of the day, as you grow as a human being, you also learn to take personal responsibility for everything in an organization. When you're the team leader, anything and everything that fails is your responsibility. Because either you didn't have the right systems, or you didn't have the right people in the right seats, or you yourself weren't in the right mindset, a lot of those things. So that year, we had close to 80% turnover in agents on the team.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in February, I believe we met there in Los Angeles.
That's right.
Sitting in Joe's office. I was seriously having thoughts about why am I doing this? Is this the end of the team and all that stuff, right? But, obviously being also influenced and impacted by, Shep Black and his coaching. And, it's also been a pivotal moment of my personal journey as well as my business journey, because, he shares a lot of wisdom, and he is always, a big believer in what shows up in your personal life will also show up in your business.
So true.
And what I did was, just kind of started leading a shift in the organization onto personal development, sharing my own journey through personal development. And, that made some people uncomfortable, hence why they left. And, it also attracted other people that were into that. So where we are today as a team is a true testament to, having selected the right people, like-minded individuals. And, at the end of the day too, you also got to expect that when you have a large group of human beings in one organization, there's always going to be some dysfunction. But who doesn't have dysfunction in their life or in their family, right? We all do. And that's all going to show up. And it's just all about how you navigate through that. At the end of the day, as long as the vision is clear and we're all committed to the same purpose and journey of serving our clients at an incredible high level and focusing on the client experience. And as a team leader, you also got to focus on the agent experience while they're in your organization. And when you focus on the people, that's when the magic happens, in my opinion, right? It's like, looking at agents that become very transactional. And granted, I may have been that person myself in the past where I was, running a team and I was just focused on the transactions. But it also shifted in focusing on the client experience
Sure.
within the organization, and then also getting, the agents to buy into that vision as well. How can we serve the clients at an exceptionally high level through challenging markets, ensuring that we meet their expectations and exceed their expectations?
When you mentioned Sheplak, who's been a huge, catalyst in my own personal growth. I mean, the exploration part of personal and what I call spiritual development with him is profound.
Mm-hmm.
And I too had, members that, resisted and left because I started talking about it. And I felt that it was a much more personal journey to share than just, how many homes I sold. And gosh, I never sold near the amount of homes that you have, but did okay in my own right. Did you find that people just naturally gravitated away and those right people naturally showed up when you were doing that work? Or was it something that you're really promoting? Because I found that whenever I went down the, I'm gonna, take you down the personal responsibility road, people like resist in a way as well.
You know what? It's fascinating because I can relate to that 100%. And it happened organically.
Hmm.
And you know what? Sheplak warned me about it too. He's like, what you think you may want today, or who you may think you want in your life today, as you go through this journey, your view of that may change as well.
Hmm.
And it sure did. Right. And at the same time, it was pretty fascinating because, we started again, like I said, promote more personal development. And God, we all got our shit. Every one of us, we're human beings. We've all made mistakes, and, learning to take personal responsibility, and also looking in the mirror and how you show up for those people that you lead, how you show up for those people that, are closest to you.
Hmm.
Guess who's the common denominator?
Sure, sure. And I don't think that, many people really dive into that, especially when they see the prestige of the accomplishments that you've had, the recognition for being, number one, literally in a country is phenomenal, but among the top in the world, that's just insanely successful. But success, is one thing. What I don't think people, go behind the curtain of is what you actually really get to deal with the personalities, with the expenses, the stress that must come with that at times. And how do you navigate that? Because it's on a whole different level at where you're at.
Yeah, Ryan, it's really interesting, and I think that it's one of the things that I probably struggle a lot with personally is how this industry really idolize team leaders, especially the ones that are obtaining, some level of success.
Mhm.
You know, Hearing you say all of those things, I mean, I don't look at it as success. Sure, it's great for the entire team to get recognized as the number one team for Remax in Canada for the last 3 consecutive years based on closed transactions. It's a huge accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't do this alone, and it's not me.
Mhm.
It's because I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by so many amazing human beings, and the success that I get to experience today is watching these agents within our organization really grow as people, where they grow as mothers, fathers, where they overcome personal health challenges or personal
Mhm.
challenges, going through some pretty crazy stuff in some cases, but then coming out of that and, changing their own personal lives and also changing the lives for their families. You know, um, it makes me choke up sometimes getting some of these messages. Like, for instance, this morning I got a message from someone on the team that, shared with me that a year ago they had zero money in their bank account. This month they'll make 40 grand.
Wow. Awesome.
Right. um, that's the kind of stuff that, hits me in the heart and makes me choke up. And to me, that is success, being able to impact other people. And, sure, has there been a lot of sleepless nights? You have no idea how many. Has there been elevated levels of stress? Oh, God, yeah. When you have monthly expenses that supersede what you used to dream about earning in a single year, where you sign like multiple six-figure contracts for marketing in November, and this was actually November of 2015, January 2016, we all know that the mortgage rule changes came into effect. Sales in our market dropped by 20%. I was confident in November. I'm like, finally, we're turning a corner, because Calgary has been a challenging market since the collapse of energy prices in 2014. And, half of the sellers that we would meet with can't sell. They're underwater. So having a lot of tough conversations with people and, still focusing on serving our clients, ensuring that they get the best marketing, the best exposure, and the highest likelihood of selling in the marketplace. That means, you have to take some risks. And that is something that has happened over and over again. And there's been years where, the organization itself wasn't profitable.
Not
right?
Easy to stomach.
No, and the saying, leaders eat last.
Yeah.
That has been the case in some years for this organization. But at the same time, I had a vision, and the vision was to continue to build one of the strongest brand in our marketplace that instills trust, so that the agents on the team has to use minimal sales language to get the business, because there's trust in the brand already. And, we had someone this morning in their morning huddle share that exact experience, where they had, been nurturing a potential client for a year and a half. And, this person, was finally ready to pull the trigger on something. It's like, I see you guys all over the city. Obviously, you guys are a brand that's trusted. One of my friends recommended I use you guys. And if you guys have trusted partners and can make this process smooth, thank you. Please line up the home inspectors, the lenders, all that stuff, because it's all part of a winning team. Now, being a team leader, a lot of people, again, idolize team leaders in this industry, thinking it's like, I want to build a team. And I've had many conversations with some agents that are like literally 2 months in the business and they want to build a team.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Right? They're like, that's how it's going to bring me success. Okay. What is success, first and foremost? As we get older, I think we look at success as having time. And I can tell you this, I've had 1 day off this year.
Yeah, that's a commitment, man. Wow.
Right. And granted, we've been obviously navigating through a pandemic. It has been having to make some tough decisions. But at the end of the day, it's what you do. You do that for your people. Now we're in a position right now where, I'm looking at making some organizational changes from structure and that kind of stuff, because I realize that, I need time, and that just comes with just ensuring that you set up your organization structured in the right way, put in the right people in the right seats, and, ensuring that I take stuff off of my plate. And, part of running a team like that is you have to let go of control and you have to trust the people. And that's something I'm just really fortunate with, having a great leadership team, a great trainer, and we continue to add on all these pieces to, again, support the organization and support all the agents. And, we got 20 people on salary right now, and close to a 7-figure annual payroll for staff.
Yeah. Wow.
Asked me 15 years ago, or if you told me that this is what it would be 15 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, what are you smoking?
Yeah, no kidding. So when I just want to go down that road, because there's one thing, and I mean, I have a pile of friends that have created amazing teams, and strong teams. I had another call earlier this morning with somebody that, they built a team, but they, ended up, purchasing 200, doors for investments, and they've kind of scaled back from the team. They're working in that space now. At what moment do you go, we're going to go to like this number one spot? Chepok always says, you never really arrive anywhere, right? But I mean, when do you say we're heading there? Like, we're heading to the top spot, not just good, but that excellent, outstanding achievement that rare air.
That's a good question, Ryan.
Like, did you think about it at all? Like, did it come up with
Well,
you in your own mind?
you obviously have a little bit of a vision, but that's not the obsession. The obsession is to continue to serve the people you lead.
Mm-hmm.
And when you continue to focus on serving the people that you lead and serving the community that you're in, just like you say, if you take care of your people will take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if we continue to focus on the client experience and the agent experience, and clearly you got to have the opportunities to support all them people in the organization, because essentially that's one of the things that falls on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
I need to put food on the table for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to generate the opportunities as well. Will we get up there one day? Maybe. But that's not the life goal. It's just to continue to serve and continue to ensure that all the agents on the team have opportunities and that I can impact them in any way, which way it is, even if it's not business related.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's impacted them in their personal lives.
Sure.
But then again, personal and business goes hand in hand.
It does. With that, I mean, you're carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders. There's no doubt about it. When you talk about your own personal development, what is it that you're doing on a continual basis to continue to navigate this journey, to continue to adapt and pivot where you need to? Like, what is it that you do? Because I would think that, the stress mounts at times where you want the right tools internally to really do this.
Yeah. And, what I'm recognizing more and more, what's important, I don't think it just applies to me, I think it applies to all of us,
Mm-hmm.
is emotional mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Being able to navigate through our own emotions and not let our emotions overtake us, because I mean, I do believe, and I mean, I think we see this and we've probably all experienced it, being emotionally drunk. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We can get so caught up in our emotions that we do stuff that we normally wouldn't do and or say. And I think we clearly get to see this on a pretty global scale right now, navigating through this pandemic and how divided people are and how, emotionally wound up people have gotten, whether it's to being an anti-vaxxer or a pro-vaxxer or a masker or anti-masker or whatever the topic is. People are just so polarized and so opinionated, but at the same time, they get so opinionated because they're so wound up emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all need to kind of practice that magic pause and be kind to one another. And yes, you know what? We're all entitled to have our own opinions.
Sure.
But go about it in a kind way and also respect, people that have the opposing views and or opinions. And I just think we've just gotten to such a point in society right now where everybody's just so emotionally wound up. And I use the term emotionally drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think we know people in our circles that we like, oh shit, they're off the rails, so to say, right? But I think, emotional mastery is something that is something that I think is critical for any one of us to have an awareness of. And yeah, you know what? It's uncomfortable for sure. right? But it's taking personal responsibility and checking in with yourself on a daily basis of where you're at. Are you doing the things that is going to lead you to where you want to go? Or are you letting that self-sabotaging behavior, kick the feet from under you and play victim of circumstances,
Mhm.
right? We all have a choice of how
There's a
we show
great,
up
great
each and
saying
every
that
day.
the victim mindset dilutes the human potential.
Oh,
And I really, in my own, I guess, perspective, I can't believe the ugliness that's come out through this pandemic. You see it, especially, I've seen it in the realtor circles because, that's the audience I pay attention to. But like you said, those opinions and the nastiness that's come out, it's tough to stomach. But again, that personal responsibility goes back to not watching it too. But I'd
true.
imagine when you've got a culture and mine's a little different because it's a brokerage, but when you have a culture like you do in a group of people, you've got to watch that a little bit too with, how people are interacting. And I'm sure there's probably some minimal standards or protocols that they know they follow in that space as well.
Yeah, and you know what? It's actually interesting, and you bring up, obviously what we get to see out there, and yeah, we get to see it in our industry as well. And I can say that I heard a quote the other day from my girlfriend, and she said, what this pandemic has done, it has unmasked a lot of people,
So good.
right? And people are showing, maybe they're showing their true colors, or they're showing their emotional immaturity, or being emotionally drunk.
Hmm.
And I can say that within our organization, yeah, we have standards and expectations, and for the most part everybody is aligned when it comes to brand awareness and protecting of the brand. And at the same time, if you have a good culture, the culture will police itself as well.
Hmm.
If there's any negativity, or someone not aligning with our brand or beliefs, agents will speak up and say, hey, you know what, this isn't good, kind of check them, or maybe it's time to exit someone. um, and I can also say that, having been on the receiving end of some of this kind of backlash, I had a recruiting ad that was put out by our marketing team in our marketplace at the start of the year. We ran the same recruiting ad, and it was a recruiting ad that my friend Chris Lindahl had shared with me because he was running it in his market. He's like, Justin, he's like, you got to run this. It gets a lot of attention, and
Hmm.
people, he was having huge success with it in his market. We ran it last year. Not a peep. I mean, we had people that obviously joined us because of it. Ran it this year. Well, there was definitely some strong language in there. And it was, again, individual agent versus a team.
Sure.
And it was more of these are the challenges that we're facing as an industry as for individual agents. And here's the solution to teams. Sure, there was some strong persuasive language in there meant to trigger emotion. And again, I own it. It was a misfire of the timing of that ad because it
Mm.
was January 1, beginning of January. Most agents are pretty stressed out financially in January because, new year,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Well, someone posted that in a private realtor group here in Calgary and went to town.
Oh, wow.
Right. But what I'll say about that is the first and foremost, my responsibility, although, it was, our staff that took that ad live without me telling them to take it live, but it's my responsibility because they're my staff.
Sure.
So I own it, misfire, clearly, wrong time for that ad. And perhaps some of the wording in that ad was also not appropriate because it was never intended on offending anyone, because there's a lot
Yeah.
of amazing individual agents out there. Now, the culture of the team, they actually protected me.
Mm.
They're like, Justin, you don't need to see that.
Mm.
Right. So, um, so it's pretty neat from that standpoint how, when you're surrounded by the right people, they also protect you from some of that stuff. And, when you are kind of the number one team in your marketplace, you are going to get a lot of haters.
Sure. Sure.
And, you know, that is another thing to kind of learn to navigate through as well. And I mean, I'm a human being as well. I have emotions, I have feelings, and sure, people say stuff that is completely untrue and fabricated, and who the hell knows where that comes from. But some of it can be quite entertaining, and some of it is just quite malicious
Yeah.
and just rude. And you know, I just know that they don't know me, and you just got to take that with a grain of salt and learn to navigate through that. And again, practice emotional mastery, sitting in that classroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't react or respond to that, because then they're going to take your energy. Just rise
So
above
true.
and carry on.
So true. I mean, I've certainly made some errors, along the way, and certainly a misfire a few years ago in my own right. And you're right, though. I mean, there were some people, even within the organization, they immediately walked. But the majority of the people, once the culture was built in a better way, did protect, and they grant grace and mercy and all the rest as well when you do have a moment, because we are human. You mentioned Chris Lindahl, and I was on the Cheplack event, I think last month or the month before, which I thought was just fantastic. He talks a lot about major shifts coming down the pipeline for the real estate industry, and I hadn't heard too many people talk about it at that level until that event. Can you lend insight on your thoughts on where is this industry going, and what must people be doing?
Well, yeah, you know what? There's definitely disruption happening and coming, and we'd be silly to have our head in the sand, so to say. We got to have heightened awareness around that, because there's disruption happening. You
Mm-hmm.
look at what's happening down in the States, and I think that's a testament to what will essentially come up here.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see how some of these big portals are operating down there, backed by billions of dollars
Yeah.
on Wall Street. Some of those portals are entering the Canadian market as well. And, particularly one of those portals, the people that created that also created Expedia.
Mm-hmm.
What did Expedia do for the travel industry?
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting to the point where, you know, they obviously start with they're starting to do this here in Canada, sending us free leads,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then eventually they're going to either charge us for the leads, or they're going to go on a referral program.
Yeah.
Now, this one particular model is now a licensed brokerage in virtually every market across North America.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they doing? They're training people on using their CRM, using their leads and opportunities. And it will come to a point where they'll say, okay, now, if you guys want these leads and opportunities, come join our brokerage. So if you're a broker owner, you better ensure that you have your finger on the pulse
Mm-hmm.
and are able to pivot and offer value to your agents. And, there's even, if you look at some of the iBuyer programs that they have down there as well, where these, again, backed by Wall Street, are purchasing homes directly from the consumers. Sure, they're going for convenience. Yes, they're paying them a little less than market value and that stuff. I mean, they have a model that they follow, but the consumers are jumping on that because of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Then they will go, okay, they'll obviously fix it up a bit, put it back on the market. Now, if you have the Portals app on your phone and you see that, okay, there's this property for sale around the corner and it's owned and listed by this company, I don't need an agent to go look at it. I can just use my app to enter access.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, I like this home. Oh, I want to put in an offer. I can do that through my app as well. Oh, I need a mortgage. Oh, they have that too. Oh, they have a moving company. Oh, they have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It's all based around the transaction or the purchase of the property and all the peripheral services. That's where they're making their money, and they're making big money on it.
Mm-hmm.
So purchasing and selling of the home almost becomes a loss leader.
Right.
So this brokerage model too is also gonna be turning to the employee agent model.
Oh, I guess like an
Why is that?
hourly salary based kind of thing.
Hourly salary. And you know what? If they have salaried employees, guess what they have to do? They have to follow a process each and
Mhm.
every time because that's the standards of the
That's how you get
organization.
paid. Yeah.
That's how you get paid, right? So then they grab more control again of the client experience. Will it work? I guess we'll see. But I bet you they've done a lot of research because they may have a couple of bucks to throw at some
No
research,
kidding.
right? So then it comes back to, okay, what can we as agents do to protect ourselves from that? Well, we got to obsess about the client experience. We also got to ensure that we build a brand in the marketplace so that we can be the number one choice outside of the disruptors.
Mhm.
And that is what I've been focusing on since 2014, because I've known that this disruption is coming. And I continue to invest today at a higher level than I've ever done before into building a brand, creating and generating opportunities, and supporting all the agents and staff in the organization.
Mhm. Does it
That's how I'm trying to protect.
does it scare you at all, or do you feel that you've got it sorted out enough and you've got the confidence because of what you have done? Because I know that a lot of agents have heard about it. I think that they sometimes are in denial that it's actually going to happen because I think Chris said he put it well that it's never been branded a certain way before to really compete with a guy like yourself or a big office setup that's got that market share and that presence. But do you have fear when it comes to this, or you're just fully ready to pivot again?
Well, you know what? I think all of us would be lying if we said that we didn't have fear,
Hmm.
right? Of course we have fear.
Sure.
But is fear going to cripple us? No. I think you got to use fear as a driver, right? Use that as that inner fuel of, you know, just making sure that you can carry on and keep on going
Yeah.
because failure of or fear of failure can be an incredible motivator and a driver.
Hmm.
And no, I'm not like, I obviously have an awareness of it, but I'm not afraid of it. I don't think it's going to crumple our business.
Hmm.
Sure, we're going to have competition, but that's just going to have to make us step up our game.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make it, make sure that you build stronger relationships with those clients. Make sure you go like above and beyond for them
Hmm. Hmm.
and don't be transactional.
No, it's a tough lesson to learn. When you do have success. I was heavily criticized for being too transactional when I was just selling under my team. Lost lots of good friends, client business because I just became that guy, and it took a while. Same thing with the brokerage.
And you know what? That's the ego kicking in, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we see that time and time again where, people come into this industry, they start having some level of success and they can see how that ego creeps in where, they just think they're better than everybody else. God, we've heard of the ones, again, all the newer agents. I've been one myself. When you call an experienced agent to do a deal and they're like, I've been in the business for 25 years and I've sold
Hmm.
X number of homes. I still remember a conversation I had with an agent here in this city where I was representing a buyer on a transaction and there was no basement development permits. And, I'm like, yeah, we need permits for the basement development. And he's like, in my 25 years where I've sold 100 years per year, I've never had anyone ask me for a basement permit. I'm like, well, congratulations. It's your first one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. And it's like, it's unfortunate that, sometimes the egos get in the way of the transaction, but
Hmm.
that's where we, again, got to have that, you know, emotional mastery.
For sure.
There are people that are part of the transaction. We got, in some sense, we got to work together. Obviously, we got to represent, our clients at a high level, but there's no reason for us to sit there and battle with the other agent on the other side.
Hmm. No, it's just not a necessary part of the process, and it doesn't do anyone, including the industry, well. Brother, what's up next for you in terms of the future of the team? What's coming down the pipeline over the next 6 months, year?
You know what? It's just continuing to have a pulse on what's happening and being ready to pivot. And I think that, with Alberta sitting here about to reopen here at the end of the month, what's going to happen?
Sure, sure.
Is there going to be like a stampede of people just leaving the city to go travel, or just go out and enjoy life? And are they going to forget about real estate for a while? I don't know. But you have to be ready to pivot. We're already kind of experiencing a bit of a change here already, as we're seeing across other markets in Canada as well, where, buyer fatigue is kicking in.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have again, the new mortgage rules that came into effect here June 1st. What kind of impact is that going to have? And, I know for the Calgary market, we need to continue to, be realistic. We've been in a depressed economy for a long time. We're finally starting to see oil prices kind of, get up to a pretty healthy level again, but a lot of the companies are still, navigating with caution because, they had to do a lot of layoffs in the city. We still have incredibly high unemployment. And, until, Calgary diversifies its economy to not be so solely reliant on oil and gas, we're going to be having to do that economic dance with the oil prices, essentially, because it does have a big impact. And I look at kind of what has happened here in the last year in Calgary. And I mean, we didn't start to get all the crazy competing offers until 2021.
Okay.
So we were probably one of the last, like Alberta was probably one of the last markets to experience this here in Canada. And that is also starting to slow down considerably. And some micro markets or pockets in our marketplace, we have some inventory challenges, but for the most part, I mean, we're sitting in a pretty balanced market when it comes to inventory, and more inventory is coming on.
Wow, that's quick. That's similar to us actually in London. We're not quite the Toronto, but we had this crazy spring market, and just within weeks, it seems like it's starting to tail off a little bit. And we're seeing homes sitting, or agents that think they've got 30 offers coming down the pipeline, then they're begging for an offer on offer day and things like that. So it'll be an interesting time.
Yeah, and you know what? Like a hot market isn't necessarily a great market. Right? Because I mean, again, just imagine all the fatigue of the agents and the buyers, right? Putting an offer after offer and reject. And I mean, it gets deflating, right? So we need to get to a healthy point where people can take some time to make an informed decision on their largest purchase, and not make that decision as they're, grabbing the door handle to walk out of the property to, oh, I better put in an offer. Oh, I better bid, 25, 50, 100K over asking. Yeah. We haven't seen like crazy numbers like in the Toronto market, but speaking of Toronto, one of the things that we are seeing is we're seeing more and more people looking to relocate to Calgary from the Toronto market, which, is because Calgary is one of the most affordable cities in Canada. And, we had one gentleman that was looking at buying a condo for like $500,000 in Toronto, and realized that he could buy a same kind of condo in Calgary for a little over $2 million.
Wow.
And he's able to work from home. So he's like, it just makes sense.
Yep.
Plus we have some pretty nice mountains 45
Definitely.
minutes west of us.
Are you going to spend some time in them? It sounds like you need a few days in them coming up.
Yeah. You know what? Probably going to do some hikes and that kind of stuff. And, I was only able to go out there a couple times on skis this last year, and that's something that I want to do more this next winter and not break a leg.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Because that was a little bit of a journey in itself.
I bet it sure looked like it. Well, listen, I certainly am blessed and grateful that you took the time today. For anybody that's watching this, take notes and really look at the level that Justin's gotten to, but also the mindset behind it, not only from where he began, but moving forward and navigating, personally and professionally, and truly understanding success and what I reference as fulfillment. So Justin, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for having me on here, Ryan. Again, truly a pleasure, and have yourself an awesome day.